Hey Ghoulies. A lot of these SCP videos are going to be longer than 3 minutes, and unfortunately I don't have access to the 10-minute video function on TikTok, so they will be in multiple parts. Or you can go to my YouTube channel, Nova Ghoul, and watch them there. SCP-004 Object Class Euclid. SCP-004 consists of an old wooden barn door, SCP-004-1, and a set of 12 rusted steel keys, SCP-004-2 through SCP-004-13. The door itself is the entrance to an abandoned factory in location unknown. This is the chronological history of SCP-004. On July 2nd, 1949, a group of 3 juveniles trespassing on federal property near location unknown find the door. According to their testimony, they found a set of rusted keys in an iron lockbox and determined what door the keys unlock. The juveniles are taken into custody after they contact Sheriff Unknown when one of their friends, SCP-004-CAS-01, goes missing. On July 3rd, 1949, local authorities find the severed right hand of SCP, we'll call him Cass, the first victim, 8 kilometers from SCP-004-1, the door. Other parts of Cass's body are found scattered as far as 32 kilometers from the factory. Under interrogation, the apprehended juveniles tell authorities that upon opening the door with one of the keys, Cass was torn into several pieces, each of which disappeared. At this point, the SCP Foundation takes over the investigation. July 4th, 1949. SCP Agent Blank obtains the keys from the local authorities to begin testing. Tests show that SCP-004-2 through SCP-004-13 all fit into a single lock on the large barred door. 12 Class D personnel are assigned to test the effects of the door. Of the 12 test subjects, each trying a different key to enter the room, only 2 survive. Opening the door with any key except SCP-004-7 or SCP-004-12 caused the test subjects to be torn apart in multiple directions. However, no dismembered parts were found until later. At the time of writing, only 2 parts of each subject have been recovered, with the exception of the subject using SCP-004-blank, whose pieces were scattered in close proximity. The others have, for all intents and purposes, vanished from existence. Of the 2 surviving subjects, only one, having used SCP-004-7, returned unharmed. The other came back in a near catatonic state, able only to remove himself from the room and then collapse on the floor, and had to be restrained to prevent him from gouging out his eyes. The subject using SCP-004-7 said that he had entered a large room impossibly big for the size of the attached building. After his exit, SCP-004-1 was propped open, and an armed squad of Level 3 personnel entered. The size of the room is impossible to measure, and the door frame and the individuals in the room are the only part of the room that can be felt or illuminated. July 16th, 1949. The juvenile suspects and Sheriff Blank are terminated. August 2nd, 1949. Blank is declared a hazardous area due to unexploded ordnance and fences erected in order to prevent civilian ingress. Tests to determine safety of exposure to environment behind SCP-004-1 begin. December 1st, 1950. Space-time anomalies resulting from exposure to SCP-004 are confirmed. Testing is suspended until further notice. July 2nd, year unknown. The unaccounted for remains of SCP-CAS appear unexpectedly outside SCP-004-1. Despite being killed decades before, the remains of CAS are not decomposed in any manner and are still warm to the touch. Blood remains uncoagulated. The remains are remanded for testing. July 4th, year unknown. The unaccounted for remains of one of the 12 original test subjects appear in similar manner to those of CAS. The remains have been designated SCP-004-CAS-2. Records suggest that both CAS and CAS-2 used SCP-004-unknown. March 21st, 1999. With the massive proliferation of nuclear weapons and World War III only unknown years away, construction has begun on a site inside SCP-004-1. The site is to stock supplies for the impending World War III. April 21st, 1999. Unknown has ordered the site inside SCP-004-1 to be expanded to include emergency storage for all mobile SCP specimens, and a petabyte database for the storage of all SCP data. The facility is now referred to as Site-62. September 25th, 2000. Site-62 is operational. Labs and containment units are complete and can contain the most dangerous specimens. Backup of the SCP database has begun. January 25th, 2001. Due to time anomalies, all personnel working at Site-62 are now required to reside on-site permanently. Families of personnel are to be informed that loved ones perished in an industrial accident. Cloned bodies have been prepared for funeral. August 14th, 2003. Massive power outage across northeast United States and through Canada. Due to the initial failure of multiple SCP generators, Site-62 was without power for 53 minutes. During those 53 minutes, those on site were completely without any source of light. They reported sensing creatures and people, although no abnormal entities could be seen or felt. Selected facility personnel were allowed to read unknown and said the creatures sensed were of humanoid size but otherwise similar to the massive green creature described. All Class D personnel using SCP-004-12 return in a catatonic state, unable to speak. Some may have enough energy left to try to claw out their eyes. Of the 16 subjects, only 4 have survived. Only one has regained speech following long-term psychotherapy. He was able to tell the psychiatrist that he saw a massive green creature so large that much of its body extended beyond his field of view. He reported innate fear and sudden recognition, as if it were something buried deep in his primal fears, and forced implantation of incomprehensible memories. Subject displays acute anterograde and retrograde amnesia.